October 2008. The entire world was falling apart. Banks were collapsing. Companies were disappearing overnight. Trillions of dollars were vanishing from the stock market every single day. People were terrified. Grown men were crying in trading offices. Families were watching their life savings disappear on a screen. Everyone around me was selling everything they owned just to make the fear stop. And I was sitting in my office in Omaha, Nebraska, reading, thinking, and buying stocks. People thought I had lost my mind. But I had not lost my mind. I had simply learned something that most people never learn. I had learned that panic is the most expensive mistake a person can ever make with money. Today I want to tell you why I never panic when markets crash. Not because I am fearless, not because I do not feel the pressure, but because I have seen enough crashes in my lifetime to know one simple truth. Every single crash in history has one thing in common. They all ended. Every single one of them ended. Let me take you back to 1950. I was 20 years old, hungry, ambitious, ready to take on the world. I had been studying markets since I was 11 years old. I thought I knew everything about investing. And then the market dropped. Not a little, a lot. And I felt something I had never felt before as an investor. I felt fear. That cold, sick feeling in your stomach when you watch your money disappear and you do not know when it will stop. I called my mentor, Benjamin Graham, the greatest investor of his generation. He picked up the phone, and in that calm, steady voice of his, he said something I have never forgotten. "Warren, the market is there to serve you, not to instruct you." I did not fully understand those words that day, but I wrote them down, and over the next 70 years, I watched those words prove themselves true again and again and again. The market is not a wise professor telling you what your investments are worth. The market is an emotional crowd, sometimes wildly optimistic, sometimes deeply terrified, and crowds are almost always wrong at the extremes. Let me show you what panic actually costs people. In March 2020, the world shut down because of COVID. The stock market dropped 34% in just 33 days, the fastest crash in history. Millions of people panicked. They sold their stocks, they moved everything to cash, they wanted to feel safe. And I understand that feeling, I genuinely do. But here's what happened next. The market recovered, and not slowly. It recovered faster than almost anyone predicted. By the end of 2020, the stock market was actually higher than it was before COVID began. The people who panicked and sold in March 2020 locked in their losses forever. They turned a temporary decline into a permanent loss. You see, a loss on paper is not a real loss. If you own a great business and its stock price drops temporarily, that business is still great. Its buildings are still standing, its employees are still working, its customers are still buying. The only thing that changed is the mood of the crowd. And moods always change. Fear always passes. The crowd always comes back to its senses. In my entire career, I've lived through 14 recessions. I've lived through Black Monday in 1987, when the market dropped 23% in a single day. I've lived through the dot-com crash that wiped out $5 trillion. I've lived through the 2008 financial crisis, when people genuinely believed capitalism was ending. And every single time, I did the same thing. I stayed calm, I did my homework, and I bought. Well, now let me tell you the real secret. The secret that most investors never figure out, no matter how long they invest. The stock market runs on two emotions, just two: fear and greed. When greed is running the market, everyone wants to buy. Prices go up. Everyone feels like a genius. And when fear is running the market, everyone wants to sell. Prices go down. everyone feels like a fool. Most investors follow these emotions like sheep. They buy when everyone is greedy because it feels safe to follow the crowd. They sell when everyone is terrified because the pain of watching losses feels unbearable. And this is exactly backwards from what actually creates wealth. I have a rule I have followed my entire life. Be fearful when others are greedy, and be greedy when others are fearful. Read that again slowly. When everyone around you is excited and buying, that's when you should be cautious. When everyone around you is terrified and selling, that's when the greatest opportunities in history are created. In 2008, when the entire financial world was collapsing, I wrote an article for the New York Times. I said, "I'm buying American stocks right now." Everyone thought I was insane. But I wasn't insane. I was just reading the situation differently than the crowd. I wasn't asking, will things get worse in the next month? I was asking, will America be stronger in 10 years than it is today? And the answer was obviously yes, because it always is. Not always in a month, not always in a year, but over a decade, America has always come back stronger. And so has every great company I have ever invested in. Now, you might be wondering, Warren, how do you actually stay calm when everything is falling apart? It is a fair question, because I am human. I feel the pressure. I read the same scary headlines everyone else reads. I have had moments of doubt, moments where I wondered if this time was different. But I have developed 3 things over my lifetime that keep me grounded when the market goes crazy. Let me share all 3 with you. The first thing is knowledge. When you truly understand what you own, panic becomes almost impossible. When I bought shares of Coca-Cola in 1988, I did not just buy a stock ticker. I understood that business deeply. I knew how many cans of Coca-Cola were sold every single day around the world. I knew the brand loyalty. I knew the profit margins. I knew the management. So when the stock price dropped, I did not panic because the business had not changed. Only the price had changed. The second thing that keeps me calm is a long time horizon. Most people think in days and weeks. I think in decades. When you're thinking about what a business will be worth in 20 years, a bad quarter becomes almost irrelevant. A recession becomes a small bump in a very long road. A market crash becomes a sale, a genuine opportunity to buy great businesses at discount prices. And the third thing, the most important thing, is that I genuinely love what I do. I wake up every single morning excited to go to work, not because I have to, but because I find this fascinating. I read 500 pages a day, not as a discipline, but as a pleasure. And when you love something deeply, fear has a much harder time taking hold of you. I want to change the way you think about market crashes. Most people see a market crash as a disaster, as something to run from. I see a market crash as one of the greatest gifts the market ever gives to a patient investor. Think about it this way. Imagine your favorite store announced a 50% off sale on everything in the store. Would you run away from that store? Of course not. You would run toward it. You would buy everything you had been wanting to buy at full price but could not afford. A market crash is exactly the same thing. The greatest businesses in the world are suddenly available at half price or less. In 2008, I was able to buy shares of Goldman Sachs at prices that seemed impossible just 1 year earlier. I was able to invest $5 billion into Bank of America at terms that were extraordinary. Not because I was lucky, but because I was prepared, and because I was not panicking when everyone else was. The people who panic in a crash are not just losing money in the present, they are giving away the opportunity of a lifetime to the people who stayed calm. Now, I want to talk directly to you. Maybe you're watching this because you're worried about your investments right now. Maybe the market has been dropping and you're feeling that fear in your stomach that I described earlier. And I want you to know that what you're feeling is completely normal. Every investor feels it, even me. But here's what I want you to remember when that fear comes. The company you invested in did not change overnight. Its products are still being sold, its employees are still working, its customers still need what it provides. What changed is the mood of the market, and moods always change. This too shall pass. It always has. It always will. I've made mistakes in my career, many of them. I've held on to businesses too long. I've missed opportunities because I was too cautious. But the one mistake I have never made is panicking during a crash and selling great businesses at the worst possible time. Because that mistake doesn't just cost you money, it costs you the future that those investments would have built for you. So the next time the market drops and the news is scary and everyone around you is selling, I want you to do something simple. Turn off the news, sit quietly, and ask yourself one question. Is the business I own still a great business? If the answer is yes, then you have nothing to fear. Nothing at all. So why do I never panic when markets crash? Because I've seen 14 crashes, and they all ended. Because I understand what I own deeply enough to know the difference between a price change and a value change. Because I think in decades, not in days. And because I have learned that the greatest opportunities in investing are almost always disguised as the scariest moments. I'm 93 years old. I've been investing since I was 11. Honestly, in all those decades, the single most valuable skill I have developed is not stock picking. It's not reading financial statements. It's not understanding business models. It's the ability to stay calm when everyone else is losing their mind. That skill is available to every single person watching this video right now. You do not need a finance degree. You do not need connections on Wall Street. You need patience. You need knowledge, and you need the courage to be different from the crowd, because the crowd is almost always wrong at the worst possible moments, and the people who know that are the ones who build real, lasting wealth. Thank you for watching today. I hope something I said today helps you feel a little calmer the next time the market drops, because it will drop again. That I can promise you. But it will also rise again. That I can promise you even more confidently. Stay calm, stay patient, and trust the process.